Welcome to the first Hollywood Kitchen of 2025. I kind of debated about when to bring Hollywood Kitchen back. This year has not started off easily. A friend and collaborator of mine very suddenly died, Donna Hill, who's been on many Hollywood Kitchen episodes, and I've been really devastated about her loss. And then, of course, the Los Angeles wildfires, and several friends of mine have lost everything. And it's just been a really difficult time. But I figured I started this project during lockdown. So carrying on and trying to provide some sort of uplift and enjoyment during really difficult times is kind of an ongoing theme around here. And so I decided to go ahead and do an episode and kick off the new year. And I can't think of two more awesome people to start the new year off with than one of my personal heroes, the original gangster of celebrity recipe cooking, film historian, archivist, and cook and writer, Jenny Hammerton in Hastings, England, and Peter Fuller of the Vincent Price legacy in the UK in London. So thank you both so much for joining me today.
And thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
I am so happy to be with you guys. One of my bucket list goals is to cook with you guys in the UK. I swear I'm going to make that happen.
We
And
will make it happen some way.
we're each going to make and or present a Vincent Price recipe today. And one of the themes I kind of wanted to carry through today is Vincent's love of Los Angeles because Vincent did live here. He made quite a number of films here. And as we can see by my original copy of the Treasury of Great Recipes, here's Vincent Price handing out hot dogs at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah.
And of course, my friend Justin Humphreys, who is the expert on Dr. Phibes and Vincent, he and I recently went to the Vincent Price Art Museum in East LA. So you can still feel Vincent's presence here in the city. And I'll get to my recipe later and talk about why I chose what to make, what I'm making, but it definitely kind of is something that feels like a very Los Angeles thing to eat. So thank you again so much for joining me. Jenny, tell us what recipe you are making today.
Well, when Peter said, would I like to come on the show with him? I said, yes, of course I would. And he said, you can do your party trick, by which he means a cucumber crocodile. So, if any of you who are watching this have the Cooking Price Wise Blu-ray that's recently been released of Vincent's cooking shows, you might have seen the cucumber crocodile. It's one of the things Vincent makes in his episode about cheese. And I love it because it's a very playful thing. I like the recipes in Cooking Price Wise that are fun, a bit of whimsy, something to amuse your dinner guests. So if you're having friends and family around, why not make them a cucumber crocodile? So, as they used to say on programs, here's one I made earlier. I rustled it up to show you how creative you can be. And the eagle eyes of you may notice that this is not, in fact, a cucumber. It is, in fact, a courgette or zucchini, as I believe they're known in the States, because when I went to get my cucumber out of the fridge, it was a bit squishy. And I knew I would not be able to make a face from it. So it's very simple to make a cucumber crocodile. You get a cucumber or a zucchini. I've now realized you can use. You cut a mouth from the end which is most pointed up, that looks most like a nose. This one's got a little, these are little peppers. I think they're called pepper drop peppers here. Don't know about whether you can get these in the US. And he's got stuffed olives for eyes. And I've used cheese, little pickled onions, gherkins, and some more of the little red peppers. You could use whatever you've got knocking around in your fridge, really. Cheese and pineapples, obviously 1970s special, if you have some of that. But yes, so this recipe was in the show and also in Cooking Price Wise, the book. And I'm going to show you something shameful now. This is my copy of the original Cooking Price Wise. Look, it's falling apart. Isn't that terrible? I know that Peter did a sensible thing with his original copy of Pricewise. He photocopied it so that he didn't wreck it in the kitchen when he was making Vincent Price recipes. Because basically, I've written about lots of movie stars and their recipes, but Vincent is the best. He's the king, he's a genius, his cookbooks are fabulous. So I say if you're having chums over, rustle them up a cucumber crocodile. Kids like helping with a cucumber crocodile. So it's a fun thing to make with kids if you have any around the place.
Very cool. I love that. I say a worn out book is a sign that it's been loved and it's been used, and that's a good thing.
Yes, I
By the
agree.
way, you're in Peter's cookbook, which we got to plug this. It's so terrific. Supper with the Stars with your host, Vincent Price. Y'all know how many post-it notes I have? I mean, you
Hey.
can't even see it on camera, but I'm constantly posting like, oh, I got to make this. Oh, I got to try this one again. So there's like post-it
Right.
notes all over the place for this one. But
I
it's
must admit is that I love the
Brilliant.
fact that like people use a cookbook. I think that's the main thing. And like when I got the this is my copy of look how mint condition this little paperback of like Cooking Price was.
Jealous.
But as Jenny said, what I did is I photocopied every page and then I've used it over the years. And like I've used so many recipes from Cooking Price Wise, and that's why when we were doing Supper with the Stars, we included some of those recipes in it, because there's some great ones in there that you can use every day. So, which I'm going to do tonight.
some stars have let me down with their recipes. Vincent has never disappointed, ever. It has not happened yet. I don't think it will happen, actually.
I mean, I think, with today's dietary things, obviously you have to actually make amends to the fact that, like, a lot of the recipes that him and Mary actually collected in the 60s and 70s, they were, heavy on, cream and butter and meat. And so we do actually have to actually like, look at those recipes and say, oh, how can we modernize them? And I do, like, with the ones that we actually selected for, like, Supper with the Stars, I actually look at them now and go, how can I actually either veganize them? How can I actually get rid of the butter or the meat and everything like that? And it actually works. It can work. You can actually make these recipes for a modern audience, but still keep the idea of actually having a recipe that is essentially from Vincent or his Hollywood stars.
If you guys do a vegetarian or vegan version of this, I will buy a copy, put my name on the list because I'd love to get that.
Well, I must admit, I am actually thinking about doing an air fry version as well.
Again, sign me up.
I know, because I'm a huge air fry fan, and I mean, I just do everything by air fryer now, and I just think, oh, how can I actually do this? So actually, in my Supper with the Stars book, when I've got a recipe, I've got a line that I'm actually doing air fryer alternatives. So I'm actually putting them in every single time I do one. So yeah, you never know, we might have to do an air fry version.
Maybe you could partner with the company that makes air fryers and like Vincent could be their posthumous spokesperson or something.
Yeah, yeah, Vincent Ninja air fryer.
I think he'd approve because when I first started doing the Hollywood Kitchen things, I would sometimes have people write me going, there's no way they made this food and the stars didn't cook. And I always say, some of them did, and there's solid evidence he did. Like he talked the talk and walked the walk. But I feel like too, it's just such a way to humanize them and look at who they were as people, even if they didn't. So, but Vincent, he was the real deal. I mean,
Yeah, he
absolutely.
was. I mean, if you cooking price wise is a huge example of like watching Vincent in the kitchen actually making food from scratch. Because, like over 6 episodes, I mean, this is what he made back in 1971 in the UK when he was over here prepping for like Dr. Phibes, actually. He made those 6 episodes. They said, okay, we want you to come in because, because Vincent and Mary had actually already done those cookbooks like the treasury and everything, they kept thinking, oh, Vincent must be an authority on like cooking. So they thought he was the best person to actually do a TV show. They didn't realize that he actually does. Him and Mary were actually in the kitchen making food, and loving it. And so, and you see that when you watch these 6 episodes that he does in this very, very, camp retro sort of like kitchen. He does it from scratch, and nearly every single episode is done in one take. So you can tell that he really knows his cooking. He knows what he's doing.
He so does. Where can people order this if they want to get a copy?
Well, you can actually. This is actually available on Amazon everywhere. But the problem is that this is actually a UK release, so therefore it is actually region coded. So unless you actually have a multi-region player, you won't be able to play it. Unfortunately. But this is because of a copyright situation, because it's a British-owned production, and there's various things. And it actually took me 8 years to actually get the rights to this. So it's been a long, long journey, and I'm just so glad that it's finally out there for people to collect. Because it is like a rarity, and it's something that people will love to watch, and it will just make them want to actually go out and get the book. Because also is that in 2015 is that there was actually a re-edition of the book, which was done by Carla Editions, and that has all the recipes in it. And I've been talking with Victoria, and we are actually looking at sort of like an idea of like maybe doing a US release at a later date, but we have to actually look at the licensing on that. But at the moment, this is the best way to actually get it, and it also does have some great special extras, including Jenny and I doing an audio commentary on cheese. You liked that one, didn't you, Jo?
Oh, that was so much fun to do. I haven't listened to it back yet. I'm saving that for a rainy day.
And
But it's also got and Jenny also does she does show you how to actually make a cucumber crocodile as well.
And a melon monster and a chessboard cheese board.
Whoa!
And the region free DVD players in America, they're only like 88 to like $150. So they're not a huge amount of money to get those, by the way.
Yeah, I was in Australia, and because we are actually in sort of Southeast Asia, there's lots of different region codes happening. So I actually picked one up for like £75. So I now have, but it's
Mm.
actually a 4K UHD version. So now actually I can actually do all of those as well, which a lot of people, if they're actually getting up, moving up to 4K, then you actually do bypass those region codes. So, you can invest in getting international Blu-rays that have different regions. You just have to look at the box to say that it says all on your 4K players.
Peter, we were talking about this before we went live, but tell me about this incredible Vincent Price tiki object that you have. Is it a mug or a bowl? Go into
It
what.
is. I will show you. Look at this. Now, this is fantastic. This came out last year, and this is licensed by the Vincent Price Estate. It is a tiki mug. Now, I don't know whether people can remember what the connection with Vincent and the tiki is, but it was actually the Brady Bunch, because Vincent appeared in an episode of the Brady Bunch called the Tiki Caves, and he played Professor Whitehead, and he ends up kidnapping the Brady boys because he wants an idol returned. And it's a great episode. It is actually the episode. Well, it's the first thing I ever saw Vincent in. And I was amazed that like there's a company called Tiki Maniacs in America, and they have made this tiki mug, which is actually modelled on Vincent's character, Professor Whitehead. You get a little stick, a swirly stick, and you also get a recipe book with a little recipe of a cocktail to make. But that is officially licensed by the estate. So I actually got that, but it's oh god, it's heavy. It's really heavy. It's the one thing is that you need a straw or two to actually drink your drink in. But it is beautiful.
By the way,
I,
I got a comment on Facebook Live that I would love vegetarian and air fryer recipes from Vincent Price. So the demand
there you
is
go.
there. We're establishing that right now.
There we go. That will be my next project.
I need to
Hey,
get that. I'm going to be ordering that like right after we finish here.
I was going to show something that I found. I know you've moved fairly recently, And I have two, and I've only just really started sorting everything out. But look what I found, Peter.
Ah, fantastic.
Vincent Sale.
It's
I
what?
found three bottles. It's Vincent Price Ale, Black Cat Ale. I found three bottles of it, and I reckon you probably need three bottles to fill that tiki mug, wouldn't you? It's
Oh,
huge.
probably would. Yeah, that was a little bespoke idea we had a few years ago where we actually did an ale with a local brewery in Kent. And they sort of said, "Oh, we'd love to do that." And so we thought, "Oh, let's do a Black Cat Ale." We just did one batch, and it went really quickly. So we were very, very pleased with that. But it was one of those things where it's I think when it comes to doing beers in the UK is you have to have a proper distribution and a really good distribution sort of thing. So unless you're actually connected with like a major brewery, one little batch works really well, but you couldn't really do it all the time. But yeah, it's a bit of a limited edition. So, and those labels are actually done by our good friend Graham Humphreys. That he did the label for that, and so they're a bit collectible now.
Yeah, collector's items.
Yeah.
On my table here, I've got my Vincent Price Funko Pop, which my black cat
Yeah.
loves to send flying across my kitchen, and it's done that on many occasions. I have to tell you about this one. Last summer, I was at the horror convention, Midsummer Scream, and I happened to go by the table where Victoria was, and much to my shock, there was not a line. I must have caught her at a very off moment. There wasn't a line. So I got to chat with her, but I didn't want to take up too much of her time. So we just spoke a few moments, and I told her how much I loved Vincent and his food and his work and everything. And she just goes, "Here, take this," and handed me this Vincent Price bust that was on the table. And I was so excited. I got it, and I started running to my friend Susie to tell her. I was like, "Susie, Susie." And I tripped and fell, and this thing went flying through the air at the Long Beach Convention Center. And it was almost like a cartoon. I was like, and then I thought it's going to shatter into a million pieces. But then it hit the floor and practically bounced because it's really light plastic. So
You.
I have a store in Burbank, California called Halloween Town, and it's year-round Halloween, like 365. And they have salt and pepper tombstone shakers. So Vincent's got a little salt and pepper headstone here.
Brilliant. That's so cool. I wish I'd seen that moment.
It was so comical. I was just so relieved to break into 1,000 pieces because I just would have stood there and started crying or something.
The bus reminds me of the one that's actually in Batman. When they actually, the William Shakespeare one. It looks like one that they actually you think there's going to be a button there.
Oh yeah. Question, by the way, if people still wanted to get your incredible cookbook, where could they find it? Are there still copies of it to be had?
So the hardback copy is now a collector's item because there were only 250 actually made, and they've all been sold. However, we've done a paperback version, which is available on Amazon, so you can buy that anywhere. And there's also a digital version on Amazon. But the good thing is that if you are actually a Kindle Unlimited subscriber on Amazon, you can download it for free. My sister did it the other week, and she goes, "Oh, I had no idea." So she's using it now. So you can just download it, and it's there. But yeah, the paperback version is there, and it's widely available everywhere. So yeah, that's and a lot of people have actually bought the paperback version as a second copy if they've actually got the hardback, because the hardback they go, "Ooh, I'll actually keep that nice and pristine, and I won't put my notes in there." And I'll get the paperback version. I'll just write all my my notes in there, and which works really well. And also, we've added pages at the back so you can actually do extra notes of things as well.
That's a great idea. There are a few notes in my first edition of the Treasury, and I love that because I kind of like it's almost like a note sent across time from someone in the 60s to me, and or 2025.
And especially
Yeah.
when it comes to like doing measurements, which is actually like imperial and metric and everything. I don't know about you lot, but I'm always getting out my scales and actually like having to like go, now is this the correct measurement? I'm always and especially with a lot of recipes, they're actually like for like families. Most of the recipes are actually like for 4 to 6 to 8. And so, when you're actually like just one person or just two people, you've got to always try to like cut that down. So, it actually, you do need to have like scales in your head, like okay, that's how much it's going to be, sort of thing. Unless you've got a big freezer and you can actually freeze stuff. There's one recipe which we've got in here, which I did, which was Charles Bronson's curry. And I did that. And honestly, I didn't realize it's actually made for 12 people. And, like you have to actually read the recipe beforehand. You go, oh shit, this is for 12 people. I better scale that down,
I have forced many of my friends to come over and eat. Oh, sweetheart, no, we're not going to eat the cheese. Sorry, we're having a black cat guest star.
Stop!
Hello, close up.
Oh.
By the way, Annabelle is saying, Peter, please come visit us. Oh,
I
no,
will indeed.
I can't.
Close up.
Wrecking of joy.
He has got to be the center of attention at all times, and if not, it is. It's okay. Don't go anywhere near the garlic, sweetheart. You can't have that. I know.
Special guest star.
My friend Donna, the last episode we did together, he stuck his butt right to the camera, and I took a screenshot. It was funny. So, Peter, what recipe are you going to make for us today?
Okay, so I thought, considering we're doing, we've got the lovely Blu-ray of Cooking Price Wise out, is I thought we'd do one which we actually featured also in Supper of the Stars. Now it's actually page 197. This is one which is actually one I do all the time in summer. It's actually quite easy, but it's actually quite nice as well. It's a bit different. It's Vincent's wilted spinach salad with bacon dressing. Now we paired that with an episode, our chapter on Lynn Barry, who was Vincent's co-star in Shock, the 1946 film that he did, and we paired it with her almond tea cake. It was a nice pairing because Jenny was very much involved in pairing all the foods that we had in Supper with the Stars, and this was a really nice pairing. So I thought I would actually make wilted spinach salad. Now it's really easy, so bear with me. We're going to do it from scratch. So literally, what we have is spinach. Now, in Vincent's recipe, is that basically he would actually have young spinach that was, like in the old days, you didn't get packaged spinach. You would actually have to buy spinach and wash it and drain it and all that sort of thing. Today, we just have young spinach. And he sort of says that split it up into bite-sized pieces. But let's face it, young spinach is in bite-sized pieces, so it's actually very nice. So what we've got to do is you do spinach, and then we have spring onion. Now, spring onion is actually, I think, green onion in America. Is that what it's called? Is that what it's called?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's spring onion. And so basically you mix spring onion with spinach. And that's it. That's it there. And then what we do is, this is the interesting thing. You have to mash a little bit of garlic. All the measurements are in the book. You mash a little bit of garlic with some salad oil. Now I use extra virgin olive oil. You mash it up together and you leave it aside for about 30 minutes. And then what you do is you get rid of the garlic out of the oil. What it does is it infuses the oil with the garlic. So therefore, you've got garlic oil. So you pour the garlic oil into your salad. Okay, done. And you toss that, and it's done. Now, why is it called wilted spinach when you've actually got spinach? That's the next bit, which is the secret. And I really, really like this bit. So what you've got to do is you've got to saute some bacon, 3 slices, 3 rashers of bacon. And what you do is you separate the bacon and you keep the oil. That's actually the bacon oil that's in the bottom of the pan. Now, I noticed that today's bacon is a bit different from the 70s bacon, is that you have less fat in it. But it doesn't really matter because you only need to have literally what's actually in the pan itself. So you take the bacon out, just keep that pan. Doesn't matter if you've got not much like bacon oil or anything left in there. It's the bacon flavor that's actually the secret. And then what you've got to do next is you've got to do the dressing. Now the dressing is one egg, a tablespoon of sugar, a tablespoon of red wine vinegar, and a tablespoon of tarragon vinegar. Now, I had tarragon vinegar last summer, but I ran out of it because I've used it all up, and I can't find it anywhere at the moment. But you can use, cider vinegar or apple cider vinegar or anything like that. Just a white wine vinegar and a red wine vinegar connected with the sugar and beat the egg. And you beat that all together, okay? Beat that all together. Then the secret is your pan, which is nice and warm, with the bacon oil in it. Make sure it's warm, not cold. And then what you do is you add that mixture, the dressing, into the pan, and then you stir fry it and it emulsifies it into a really nice little texture. And you get a really nice dressing. And then basically, you just pour that dressing over your thing when it's warm. Now, when it's warm, as it's actually warming, it'll actually wilt the spinach in your bowl. And that is your wilted spinach. So you have lovely wilted spinach, and you can see that it actually wilts. Unfortunately, we don't have a camera, and we're not in cooking price-wise here with a camera overhead, which we could show you the wiltedness, but it actually wilts as you actually put it in there. But it has to be warm dressing. And then that's it. You've got that. And then what you can do is you can actually have your bacon and you crumble the bacon over the top of it, and that is your salad. And if you've got, like the other day, I actually had some leftover bread, so I made some croutons. So instead of bacon, because I'm not a very big fan of bacon, is I've got some croutons which I'm actually going to put on my things. That's it there. And if you want, you can actually add some walnuts or some nuts if you don't have a nut allergy and you like nuts. You can have that as your part of your dressing. And that is your wilted spinach salad with a bacon dressing.
Can each of you send me a photo of your final, the recipe and the completed version?
I will do that right now. Look, I'll do that right now.
You know what I've always been afraid to try, admittedly? I have never tried one of Vincent's souffles. And souffles, I've heard, are so delicate and they can go south very quickly, which I've had a lot of things already do that on me in Hollywood Kitchen. So, have you guys done that a lot? And if so, how have you managed to make it work?
Jenny?
I think the secret was, yeah, I think the secret with souffle is to eat it as soon as it comes out of the oven, basically. So yeah, I've made a few souffles. I don't know whether I've made a Vincent Price souffle. I do remember making a turnip souffle once. I can't remember what film star it was. Very odd. But yeah, I don't think you need to be afraid of the souffle. I think you should give one a go.
Okay, because I a few
I'm
years ago
currently.
I made Jean Harlow's cream puffs and I got them out of the oven. They looked gorgeous. I was like, I did it. And then like you could have counted five, four, three, and they just went flat pancake. And I was like, no. So
No.
something happened when I made the K. Francis coffee mousse. I found this beautiful, like vintage, never been used, 1930s star Jello mold. And I put it in
Mm.
there. I unveiled it. It looked gorgeous. And the same thing. You could have counted to three, and then it just went into a gelatinous mess. So
Yeah.
I've been very hesitant to go down the road of souffle for that very reason.
Well, there's also a
I
recipe
don't.
in Cooking Price Wise, which is I'm not going to say it's a souffle, but it has a souffle texture, and it is the moussaka. Have you tried that one, Jenny?
No, because I'm scared of aubergines.
Oh, I see. Right, okay. It's just that like the way that you mix the egg and everything, yeah, you have the single cream, the cheese, and the eggs. When you actually do it, it actually is almost like a souffle because when you put it on the top as a layer, it puffs up, and it works really well. That's actually one of my favorite dishes in price wise. Um, is the moussaka because it has a souffle type texture, which works really well. So, and it's actually also a good keto dish as well.
Jenny, is there a Vincent Price recipe that is your absolute favorite or one that you make the most frequently?
I would say that Buckingham eggs is my favorite. That's in the Treasury. It's a scrambled eggs on toast with a twist. So you make an anchovy butter with anchovy paste, butter, and mustard. You spread that on your toast, and then you put your scrambled eggs on top, grate a bit of cheese on, bit of Worcester sauce. Mwah! So that used to be my Saturday spinster breakfast before I met my husband. I've eaten that many, 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 many times and I love it. And we did have a special event at Harrods, didn't we, Peter, where we had Buckingham eggs in the restaurant in Harrods made specially for us. And that was the relaunch of the Treasury, wasn't it, Peter, with
It was. It
Victoria?
was. It was the relaunch of the Treasury. We thought we'd actually add that, and of course, because of that, we actually added it to Supper with the Stars. So we included that in the book because also is that the Duke of Buckingham was a character was a character that was played by John Sutton in Tower of London,
Hmm.
and he was probably Vincent's most prolific co-star. He appeared in 8 films with Vincent, so we had to put the Buckingham eggs in there because as a homage to like not only to the film but also just the fact that John Sutton had actually appeared in so many films with Vincent, again, it is actually one of my favorites as well.
So, what are your favorite? So, the Buckingham eggs are both of your favorite Vincent recipes. What are your favorite Vincent films?
Ooh, Jenny, you want
That's
to
a
go
tough
first?
one. You go first, Peter. I'll have to think about this one.
Well, I think I'm going to always err to Theatre of Blood. I think because out of all the films that Vincent did, and Vincent had a huge career in so many different genres, and of course we all know Vincent as the horror icon. But when he did Theatre of Blood, he was talking about when he was doing that, he was also talking about all the people actually thought that he wasn't a very good actor, and he was actually having almost like a dig at all the critics himself who said I wasn't that a good actor. So I think my favorite is Theatre of Blood because it's just such got a fantastic cast of British thespians all together together. It's got a great script, brilliant locations, all here in London. And Vincent actually just gets to do Shakespeare really well, but also he gets to do comedy Shakespeare, gets to do all these character actors. So, if you think about it, he actually plays like 14 characters or something. So it's great. I love that film. And I think to me, it's like it is the Vincent Price film, other than something like House on Haunted Hill, which is the film that I always think that's Vincent at his most Vincent Priciest.
Peter, I was talking to Justin. I told him I was going to do this episode, and he told me to mention that if you didn't know that at the wrap party, apparently for Theater of Blood, the catering people prepared hearts of beef and served them at the wrap party for the film.
Oh, really?
And
No, I
it
did
told
not
me,
know that.
yeah.
Brilliant.
I would say Theater of Blood is my favorite as well, and I think Fives would be a very close second. And I just feel so grateful to live in LA where we get to see a lot of stuff on the big screen. Last about a week or so ago, the New Beverly Cinema, they showed a noir double feature of Universal archival prints. And granted, it's not his greatest film, but they showed The Web on film and his beautiful print. And oh my God, he's so good. I mean, there's no genre he couldn't do.
No, I like the web actually. I think that's Ella Raines and
Yeah, yeah.
who's the guy? I can't remember his name now. But yeah, I think it's actually an all right film, really.
Yeah.
I mean, because also he appeared in like what was it was the film with that Fritz Lang had done, which is all about the newspapers. That is I can't I'm trying to remember when the city sleeps.
Oh, yeah.
That is a really that's a film that people need to actually see again because it's all about newspaper industry. He's done some really good stuff, but one of my big favorites is Champagne for Caesar, with Ronald Colman. He's just absolutely hysterical in that. There's no genre that Vincent didn't touch that he didn't actually try, and well, he did actually make a real big impact on. But yeah, he was always a great comedian as well, I think.
I agree. Jenny, what are your favorite Vincent films?
Well, you've picked all of mine already, but I also really like His Kind of Woman with Jane Russell and Robert Mitchum because I'm a big Jane Russell fan. And Robert Mitchum, we've got a great Robert Mitchum chili recipe in the book. And there's a Jane Russell beef, is it, Peter? The Jane
Yeah,
Russell recipe we've got in the book.
the green pepper steak. Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
By
Yeah,
the
I've
way,
made
yeah.
I'm
that.
friends with Christina Rice, who is Jane Russell's biographer, and she has done a Hollywood Kitchen. She said Jane absolutely hated cooking, but she liked doing the dishes. So I kind of joke that every time I find a Jane Russell recipe, I text it to Christina, and she texts me
Yeah.
back, lies, Carrie, total lies. And we joked that maybe our Jane Russell episode should just be us like doing a pile of dishes since she liked that. But I found in a film magazine spread about Jane Russell when she was working on that. And it's such a fluff piece that it's really obvious. It's like when Jane
Mm.
wasn't on the set of Outlaw in Mexico, she was working with the women of Mexico to learn about cooking. And you read it and you're like, that's like Mad Libs. Who made that up? And I showed Christina and she just laughed. But then there was like a recipe for Mexican hot chocolate or something. And Christina's like, let's just do that because why not? And that's
Yes.
okay. But you should get together with her. And I recently found out that Robert Mitchum's granddaughter is a cordon bleu chef.
Wow.
Maybe
Interesting.
we need to tag team and get her to do an episode with
Yeah.
us, Jenny.
Definitely,
Well, and
definitely,
also
definitely.
because also Robert was actually wasn't he? He was also head of like the some chili festival for many years. He was like,
Mm.
I think we should really get her to actually maybe do a chili fest with us.
And
A
also,
cordon bleu chili.
Yeah,
I've heard he would like judge chili contests. I mean,
yeah, yeah. He was a big chili head. He loved his chili.
we need to recruit her into the Hollywood Kitchen universe and the silver screen suppers.
Definitely.
I need to
Yes,
happen.
do it.
There's a Robert Mitchum eggnog recipe. I don't drink anymore, but it's like 90% bourbon with like a splash of cream or something. I guess he never heard of nutmeg, but it's
It makes so much. I made it for a Christmas party 2 years ago, and people were taking it home in bottles and Tupperware, and it just makes a vast amount. It's something like 9 quarts of eggnog. Nobody can drink that much, even a big party of people.
I
So
should get
what
one of
is
my film
actually
noir.
eggnog? What is eggnog? I've never had it.
It's rum. I think it's rum, lots of eggs, obviously, sugar. It's a very sugar. It's a bit like Snowball. Have you
No,
experienced the British
no.
classic Snowball, which is avocado and
Oh,
lemonade, lime
avocado.
juice?
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, it's sort
Mm.
of eggy,
You know,
eggy, creamy drink.
I always call it vanilla pudding you can drink because to me,
Exactly.
that's what it tastes like. I've never been a big eggnog person, I will admit, but I have a
Mm,
lot of my film noir colleagues that love the cocktail.
yeah,
So I've thought about someday trying to round up some of them to a Mitchum eggnog, but I've never tried it. It's
yeah,
good to know that feeds like an army of people.
it sure does.
And I would really love to talk to his granddaughter. That's got to go on
Yeah,
the list.
on the list.
Well, in deciding what I was going to make, I kind of tried to think long and hard about it. And I thought, well, I was nervous about the souffle, and I thought I want to make something that's simple, something that might pass as comfort food, but also something because again, I love LA so much, and seeing my friends lose everything, seeing the city I love in crisis has really been painful. And I thought I wanted to make something that kind of reflected LA a bit. And I came across the Mexican creamed corn recipe. And we're known in LA for outstanding Mexican food. And it's not just in the restaurants. You can go to the parking lot of Tonga Hut, and there's a guy in the back of the parking lot selling tacos that are amazing. Shout out to him. You can go to food trucks, you can go to street corners. It is very ubiquitous in our city. And the recipe kind of leapt out at me, and I thought, well, this feels kind of LA, and maybe that's the right thing to make.
Yeah.
So I've got my hot plate, and we were talking. Let's revisit the conversation we had before we went live. We were talking about how Vincent, while he had incredibly sophisticated taste, he wasn't a snob about food.
Mhm.
No, it definitely wasn't. Victoria always tells us stories about how he would always take her to like food trucks in LA, and he would always find new food trucks. They go, oh, I've got to try this one, and so they would actually search out in LA. They would go around LA and actually find really good food trucks just to try the food. So he knew that the best food was not in like Beverly Hills in a fine dining cuisine, although he actually went there. It was also like a food truck down in like in East Los Angeles. So yeah, it was, and I think that's the beauty of Vincent's idea about food, and I think that's why we actually like extending his culinary legacy through what we do, is because none of us are food snobs. We just like food. We like to embrace the history of food, and he likes just experimenting with like local stuff, and especially what you're doing there as well, And I love a bit of Mexican, I must admit.
Yeah.
I have a friend from France that is a really good friend of mine, and whenever he's come to LA, we eat Mexican so much.
Mm.
And finally, one day I go, I know they have some Mexican food in Paris. And he said, but not like they do here. And I was like,
No.
that is a fair point.
And of course, when we talk about Mexican food, it's like I just had a friend of mine from Albuquerque over, and we were talking about Mexican food and what the difference is between Tex-Mex and Californian Mexican and Mexico and Mexican food in Albuquerque. They've got so many different variations of Mexican food that I
Oh,
didn't realize. That is, a lot of people don't realize, that what we have in the UK here is probably just Tex-Mex.
Yeah.
Um, but we don't have all the little diversions. Do you have that in Southern California?
well, I was really lucky. I got to go to college in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And oh my God, the food there is so fantastic. Every couple years, I fly back there for a weekend of just outrageous eating. But you can't find the Santa Fe type stuff that much in LA. I found a place that had it, but it was an hour and a half one way outside of LA, which is kind of a long way to drive just for food. But here, it's not Tex-Mex and it's not the Santa Fe kind of Mexican, or like you'd find in Santa Fe, Albuquerque, wherever. It's kind of different and it's hard to explain, but you're right in that there's a million different ways you can make it and variations on it. I put some butter in the skillet here, and I'm gonna get the garlic and the onion in here and brown it lightly. I've been so nervous about close-up diving into the garlic because apparently garlic is lethal for cats. So
Oh.
I'm a little on edge today trying to keep him out of the yeah, there's so many ways to make it, and also different restaurants will even have different ways to do stuff too. So it's
And
just
have you ever tried hatch chili?
oh, definitely. I love the really strong chilies if I have a cold or a sinus problem. Eating anything green chili. There was one time I had some green chili stew. I don't know what was in it, but I had the most psychotic, bizarre nightmares, and I woke up in sweat. And I went back to the store where I got, and I was like, "What did you guys do to me?"
What did you put in this food?
I seriously wondered if there was like acid in that food that gave me one heck of a trip. But yeah, so the chilies are really good, and I think they're like seasonal too. Like they have to be different times of year, perhaps. But
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they've got this thing where everyone goes to get their hatch chili at some part of the year, and I've always wanted to try it. So one of these days I'll get to Albuquerque and actually try this hatch chili, this infamous hatch chili.
Mm.
oh, definitely. And I also recommend, and when you are here in LA, because again, Love LA so much. El Cholo is a historic Mexican restaurant here, and it's been around for about 100 years, possibly longer. Harold Lloyd was a big fan of El Cholo, his granddaughter told me. And also, if you go to downtown LA, there's Olvera Street, which is a very historic area. And the Mexican food places down there are really, really, really good as well. And also, we have really famous places. El Coyote is very famous. That's on Beverly. And conveniently, it's right down the street from the New Beverly Theater, which is now owned by Quentin Tarantino. And they only film and tons of incredible stuff. So you can literally go at El Coyote and then walk down to the New Beverly. And then, of course, the restaurant he showed us in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Casa Vega. I have a few friends who are diehard Casa Vega fans. So that's another really great vintage Mexican food place. I love supporting vintage restaurants because I sometimes feel like a lot of times people won't pay that much attention to them until they hear they're going to go out of business.
Yeah.
I had a
Yeah.
very famous tiki bar outside of LA called Bajuca. It was amazing. It was like if David Lynch had designed a tiki bar, this is what it would have been. And at least when I had gone, it wasn't that crowded. And then when it announced it was closing, it was like a mob scene down there. And I wanted to just get mad at people and go,
Why
where
didn't you come before?
were you guys when this would have mattered, when this would have
Yeah.
saved this place? So I try to put quite literally my money where my mouth is and
Mm.
eat at historic places, mom and pop places, whenever I'm able to do that, wherever I happen to be.
Sure.
So the recipe you're doing, is that from Supper with the Stars? That
It's
one?
yes, I wanted to shout out to both of you guys. So
Yeah. So
Hooray!
Jenny, where's that one from?
That's from the Treasury. So
Ah,
there's a whole chapter, as you guys know, in the Treasury of Mexican food. And I think it's the chapter that I've cooked most things from because I too love Mexican food, but it's hard to get good Mexican food in the UK, isn't it, Peter?
it
That
is. Yeah.
I don't think there's a Mexican place anywhere near me down here, but there are some in London, of course, but no, certainly not the variety that you would have there in LA.
think both
No,
y'all
we
come to LA, so Annabelle and I can personally take you out to many of these places.
Yes, yes, please. You're making me very hungry, even though I've already had my dinner because it's nearly 9 o'clock here.
Oh
You're
God.
making me very hungry talking about all those delicious restaurants, all those delicious sounding restaurants.
So right now I'm browning the garlic and the onions. Okay. I don't know if this was the right thing to do, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I went ahead and boiled the corn on the cob before, because I figured it would make it easier to take off the cob if I boiled all of it first before making this.
I think when I make it, I just slice it off the cob raw, but it'll be quicker. If you've already cooked them, the dish will come together quicker. So
Yeah,
that's cool.
I'm going to consult my what I did 173 because I've actually put notes on recipes that I've actually done. So I'm going to see what I actually wrote here. I think I used a can. Oh,
Oh,
oh wow.
even better, even faster. Why not?
Well, there's more than one way to do something.
yeah.
Exactly.
I used two cans. I've done it twice. I did two cans, or I used one ear of corn. Yeah. So
Yeah. Mm.
Okay, I'm going to add a little salt and pepper from my Tombstone salt and pepper shakers. These are so cute. I actually use them year round, not just at Halloween.
Good.
What? Okay. All right, so starting to brown the onion and garlic. Then these are the kernels. I'm going to half the recipe and only do four cobs instead of 8 because that's
Yes,
a lot.
it's a
So
lot.
I'm going to add this now.
From memory, I think it freezes okay. So, if you do have loads, it is so delicious though. I could eat it just with a spoon, it's so delicious. Are you using poblano peppers?
I am. My mom got me a mini chop. It's like a little gadget. You put something in and just hit a button and it chops it a million times more finely than I
Brilliant.
do on my own. So I got the poblano peppers and put them in the
Yeah.
Oh,
top.
they look nice. Oh,
You can't get those here. Well, you
no. Are they actually, they're not in a brine or anything, are they?
No, this was a big green. I went to Whole Foods because I knew they would probably have it if my regular store didn't, and I found it there.
Because
yummy.
here we have a company here called Mex Grocer, and it's about the only place you can get actual like proper ingredients, which is Mexican. So I did actually get some poblano chili peppers, but they're all in brine.
Mm.
So you because actually they're in the cans. And so I've been trying to make that the very famous Mexican dish, which is like the Mexican flag, which I'm not going to pronounce because I'm terrible at pronouncing things.
Go on, give it a go. Give it a go.
No, I'm terrible. I can't. Anyway, but it's like where you put all this, you stuff the pepper, and it's actually, but it's supposed to be quite nice. But it's actually a bit because it's actually in a brine. It's a bit. It doesn't hold very well.
Mm.
Whereas if you have the actual pepper, which has not been in brine, it actually is probably better. We can't get them here.
When I come to England to visit you guys eventually, I want you to send me a list of what you can't find here. I'm gonna get
You
some
won't
Ziploc
You
bags.
won't you won't have room in your suitcase for any clothes. You just have to bring us loads of things we can't get here, like graham crackers and the
Oh,
weirdest things. And
great.
graham crackers are in a surprising lot of vintage Hollywood star recipes, aren't they? So,
Yes, I've been trying. I was trying to look for graham crackers. I couldn't find them. And also, what was the one where the soup? It was the
oh my goodness, the condensed cheese soup. So that was a Betty Davis recipe that used condensed cheese soup, which we cannot get here. So Peter decided to order some. You got some sent from the US, didn't you?
from
And it went,
Albuquerque.
oh, didn't it go to Wales or something
It went
instead of
all
coming
the way
to
around the
London?
world, and but before it came here.
I've actually still got a can of that. I'm going to go and get it and see what the use by date is. It's so old, but it was so difficult for you to get hold of it. I'm not getting rid of it.
No, exactly.
When I come to
Um,
you, I will
and
bring
the other and the
fits.
other one was is that Vincent did an ad with some sort of macaroni, which I've been trying to get hold of as well. Can't remember what the name of it was called, but I wanted to try the recipe.
Well, compile a list for me of everything you guys want, and I will bring two outfits, my big suitcase, and I will pack it 90% full of food for both of you. I will bring it to the States. I had an
Here we
adventure
go.
when I did Carla Limley. Oh, what? Let me show you. What is that, Jenny?
Condensed cheese soup.
Oh, you've still got two cans of it.
I've
Oh,
still
wow.
got two cans. I'm just checking the sell by date.
I was doing Carla Limley's recipe for pork and shrimp sauce. It was a Chinese food dish, and I was having trouble finding the ingredients at the regular store. And my friend Mary Stanford said, "Well, you have to go to a special Chinese food market." And she
Mm.
told me to go to this market. Well, I drive east. It's inside the back of a shopping mall, and I was parking like, where am I going? She's like, just go in the mall. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay. And then I got confused about what ingredients because it went by a different name. And I kept asking the people over and over again, and they kept looking at me like I was crazy. So finally I figured it out. But now I know though, if I need any Chinese food ingredients, I go to the mall in Eagle Rock, and that's where I can so, call
And
me.
I just realized there's another recipe that actually has the that soup in it is the House of Hickman chicken
that's
recipe.
right. The House of Hickman chicken. So when you come down, Peter, sometime, come down for a weekend and I'll make House of Hickman chicken with this, which is best before October 2020.
It's
I
four
think
years.
I
Oh my
think it's
God.
probably indestructible though, isn't
I
it?
think it's indestructible. Yeah,
I think it would
absolutely.
survive. I'm going to add the
Anything.
habanos. And then I'm going to add the cheese. And you can use Swiss or Munster. I went ahead and did Swiss, and they didn't have pre-cut Swiss. So I just grated it all myself.
Mm, nice.
Then, well, hang on.
Get in
My
there.
hands are clean. It's okay. And then I'm just going to keep stirring and let this sit. So excellent. So, do you guys ever have the opportunity to see Vincent's movies on the big screen where you live?
Not me.
Well, I have because I've been basically when it was like the 50th anniversary for Theatre of Blood, which was obviously 2023. I actually had to do it like 4 or 5 times over the year because I was doing presentations for it. And then when it was actually the anniversary for Mask of the Red Death, which actually came out on Blu-ray and had the remastered version, which the BFI had done. I've done we've seen that on the big screen, and it's always been great to see them, like on new definition and on the big screen. It's always great, but we don't have the classic cinemas like you do, like like in LA, where you actually see them in that sort of environment. However, in October of last year, Victoria and I conducted a tour of in the US. We were actually following in the footsteps of Edgar Allan Poe, and we were doing it as the anniversary because it was his 215th anniversary. And we ended up going to a few places where we actually got to see loads of Vincent's films, Mask of the Red Death, The Raven, all on the big screen in these beautiful cinemas where actually they had the Wurlitzer organs that used to come up. It was such a treat. It was really, really lovely. And I just love watching Vincent's films in a classic cinema like that. They just bring back so much memories, and they're very historic and very very atmospheric.
And just it has such a greater emotional impact when you see something that huge, you know? I grew up as a kid, they showed Jaws a million times on TV when I was little. And then when I was in film school and college, they were showing Jaws on a huge screen. And my first thought was, oh, I've seen this a million times. But I thought, well, I'll go to class anyway. And I went and seeing that on a giant screen, it was like seeing it for the first time. It was a
Yeah.
completely different experience to see it that way. And that's definitely Vincent's one of those stars too that and he's wonderful on TV, DVD, if that's the only way you can see him. But to see that on a huge screen is just awe-inspiring, you know?
And I think my favorite for last year was actually we were in Phoenixville and we went to the cinema, which was the cinema that was used for the Blob. When they filmed the Blob in 1958, they have the great scene where everyone's running out. And we had like a festival there for the day. We're watching like 3 films of Vincent's in that beautiful cinema. And to me, that was just magic. That's the kind of place you want to see. Uh,
I'm sorry.
that's the kind of place you want to see Vincent's films, is a beautiful cinema like that. With a bit of history. You know.
Have you and Victoria ever thought about doing like a Vincent Price food and film festival combined?
Absolutely. We've done it in LA. We have done it. We did it a few years ago. We went down to LA. We went down to a brewery, and we had actually a pairing. We had a film. We did the Tingler, and we had a pairing there. We had like beer thing, and we had the Lugosi beer as part of
What
it.
is
Oh,
this?
yeah, I know it was before I knew you, darling.
What
So,
year was this?
2017.
How did I know? Okay, I'm very upset with myself. How could I not know this happened?
Yeah, so it was a fantastic little place just down south of Los Angeles. It was, I can't remember it now, but it was like a brewery, and it's the same brewery that the Lugosi family were doing their bespoke beer. So yeah, it was really nice. And actually, we actually went to we went and did our own tour of Hollywood Forever
I was
before we
there at
knew
the
you, darling.
time. I was there
Before
at
we
the time.
before we knew you, darling. So.
I've been at the cemetery giving tours since 2002. But well, our paths should have crossed and they've
Our
worked
paths should have
out.
crossed, yes,
That's what
exactly.
matters. That's what
And
matters.
I must tell you stories that we were supposed to do a scavenger hunt on that day, where we were supposed to like go and try and find out different tombs, and none of us knew where everything was, and so we got completely and utterly lost. We needed you.
Thank you. It's very
All
nice.
all I found was Darren McGavin's place. So
Next time, we will go to the cemetery. We will eat so much Mexican food and we will have
Yes, yes.
a good time.
and you also you know that like Coral's ashes were scattered in Hollywood Forever as well.
Yeah, I think she's in the Rose Garden.
He is in the Rose Garden.
Hmm?
Yes. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. The peacocks love that area, so they gravitate toward that garden.
Yeah, that's very much Coral.
What's she like, by the way?
I don't know. I only know by like stories sort of thing, but she sounds like a formidable person. Unless you knew her, it's one of those people where, all the people that loved her dearly, and like, but people were also they respected her for the fact that she was very, very herself. She didn't take fools gladly. So she would have been like it's one of those people I would have loved to have met because you just did not know which side of the fence you would actually be on with regards to her.
Very diplomatic.
Isn't it? Yeah.
That's awesome. Let me see if we have any comments from the people watching us here on Facebook Live. Thank you, Mom, for watching from Georgia. I love my parents. They're the best. They watch episodes and they love me and they're the best. Let's see. Um, okay. One lady, Leslie Apple says, you wait for the souffle. The souffle doesn't wait for you. Enjoy it right out of the oven.
Perfect. I
Yeah.
like that phrase. I might write that down.
Check out this easy cream cheese souffle. It's wonderful, inspired by the one that his mother used to make. That's also from Leslie. A
Nice.
good number of people are watching. There's just not a ton of comments coming in, but that's okay. That's okay. So, I think I need to let this sit another 20 something minutes, but I at least want to show you how it looks, which is really good.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that does look good.
Oh,
Does
and
it smell good?
it
Hmm.
smells really good too. I wish you could be here to smell how lovely it is. So, any final thoughts today on Vincent or his film or culinary legacies?
I would just say, try some of his recipes. They, as you said, they all turn out brilliantly. He's a brilliant food writer, as well as great actor. He knew how to write about food, and his head notes to all his recipes are beautiful. And if you ever get the chance to listen to his LP records where he talks about how to host as well as sharing recipes, they are amazing. So that's what I would recommend.
Mm. And talking of which is if you go on to Vincent Price Legacy, which is on the YouTube channel, which we run, is I've actually put all of Vincent's um, culinary cookbooks. What was the international one?
International Cookery School,
The
I think.
International Cookery Series. I've uploaded them all. So they're all available to listen to. And I've done them in such a way where you can actually like look at each chapter. So you can actually stop and actually play bit and actually like listen to bits. So yeah, they're all up there for you to actually this. I think it was like quite a few of them actually. So
Mm.
your favorite is up there, the Indian one. So
Yeah, I love that. So good.
Just admire him so much because he was a true Renaissance man. I mean, not only was he an incredible actor, but he could write, he could cook, he was a world traveler. He was so incredibly sophisticated, but not the least bit snooty or pretentious about that, you know?
No.
He just sounds like such an incredible human being that I desperately wish I could have known him.
Yeah, Peter met him though.
I did, and for my sins, is that like I've always said to myself, this is that if only I was like a little bit. I was 17 at the time when I met him, and I was a little bit shy. Had I been a little bit more confident, I would have said, having known that he loved deep sea fishing and fishing, my family were all farmers and fishermen. I would have loved to have actually said, "Would you like to go out tomorrow and go fishing?" He would have done it, and
He would have done it.
I would have loved to have gone fishing with Vincent, but
Oh,
no, it didn't happen. But yeah, it was one of those great memories of meeting Vincent. Yeah,
Mm. Just it just amazes me just what a life he lived and what a legacy he left behind. It's truly incredible. And of course, I've talked about it many times, but during lockdown, Victoria did these terrific seminars or events online, and I'd buy a ticket and go to them. And the first one I went to, I did not expect to be weeping openly during a Vincent Price webinar event, but I was because she talked about his legacy of love. And her words were so eloquent and so beautiful. And I was just I wasn't expecting to be moved that much, but I was. And it really just dawned on me what an incredible man he was and what an incredible way he lived his life.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can all learn much from him.
I agree.
absolutely. Thank you very much, Carrie. This has been great.
Thank you
Yeah, such fun. Thanks for inviting us.
so much. And by the way, if anybody can donate, if you can't, I understand, but if you can, there's the American Red Cross. And also locally, I'm on the board of an organization called Grace Diner. I've been involved with them for a long time, and we help feed people in need in Los Angeles. And every single cent goes to food and helping others. There's no overhead. So it's all volunteer based. But if you can donate to any of those, our city would really, of course, benefit because it's been a very rough time. And like I said, Vincent loved LA, and I definitely kind of wanted to mention that, in the episode because he truly left an incredible mark on our lives, on film history, culinary history, and of course, the city of Los Angeles. All right. So Jenny and Peter, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
You.
And
Sending
I can't
lots of
wait.
love.
Let's do it again. I love it. I love doing this.
that's right. Well, I'm going to go to work on Robert Mitchum's granddaughter, and
Yeah,
we've got Victoria involved in this before, so it's possible.
yes, do it.
Oh. All right, guys. Well, thank you. And to Vincent,
To
To
Vincent.
Vincent. To Vincent.
to Vincent. All right. And stay tuned for more food, fun, and film history from Hollywood Kitchen. Goodbye.